So we could literally do this like all day, talking about who is really to blame for what happened with Spider-Man in the MCU. And certainly, at the end of a couple of videos, I've expressed how I'm blaming both of them 50-50. I'm not siding with Sony, I'm not siding with Disney. They're both in the wrong, in my opinion. So let's get into it, and I hope you guys in the comments will let me know what side you fall on, or are you gonna end up being like me, in the middle where you're disappointed at both. So, the first thing that we gotta get out of the way is Disney came to the rescue of Spider-Man and that franchise with TASM because there was nowhere they could go. After those giant email leaks, Sony was about to reboot again after Andrew Garfield walked away. That franchise would have 100% been rejected. It wouldn't have gone anywhere. That's a fact. So they came in, they offered that deal, and Spider-Man is now more popular than ever, selling more than ever due to his inclusion in the MCU. His popularity has skyrocketed, as we saw with Far From Home's box office take. So it's pretty important, right? At the same time, when this deal was reached, there was some weird contractual stuff, but when we get really down to it, Disney was still helping make these films using their own resources and not getting anything until the back end, 50 to 55 million off the film once the box office was done. Over on the other hand, you had Sony. They were pushing forward with these films. When they were making Far From Home and they realized what the script was and the post-credit scenes and everything, and with Marvel and Disney and they agreed with them, couldn't they have done something to not end it on a major cliffhanger that's never gonna get resolved? So whose fault is that, right? Like, Sony should have picked up the phone and actually talked to them about it and been like, hey, do you want us to take these scenes out of there because they're not gonna work out for how we're, putting Spider-Man into the MCU and what's about to happen? But as I've covered on here, months went on. In some reports, 6 months went on, and there was no talk from Sony to Disney trying to hash out anything after they proposed a deal. So everything fell apart. So who do you blame here, right? You're going to blame both of them. Disney, they were like, well, we want more money. And does Disney really need any more money? No, they don't. They really don't. They already get all the merchandise from Spider-Man and everything else. What's Sony getting? They're getting the box office take, and that's really it. They got nothing else. They get no piece of the merchandise or anything. So Sony wanted a little more, right? And I can 100% support them. That's clear. If you're not supporting Sony on this side, I don't know what to tell you. You're being a corporate shill for Disney. And oh man, it's going to be funny because here's me, right? Who gets constantly accused of being a corporate shill for Disney, even though I'm just defending them from the most logical view. But here, they're clearly in the wrong, right? They're in the wrong, and I can tell you that because they are. Like, did they really need more money? But now, on the other side of this, let's take a step back and look at what Kevin Feige and Disney wanted to do. They didn't want Morbius out there. They didn't want, Kraven the Hunter to get a movie or whatever else they were doing. They didn't want a film like Venom to happen outside the MCU. So they went to them and said, hey, Kevin Feige will get hands-on with every single film you want to put out. Just give us a cut of that because Kevin Feige's going to be taking the time to make sure you guys are putting out 1 to 2 films a year for the rest of forever, as long as you want. And Sony was like, nah. Now that would have been Kevin Feige taking MCU content away, because we probably would be still then at 2 MCU films or maybe 2 shows a year if he had to take that much time to produce these, Sony products that Disney never would have saw any benefit to. So they're like, well, we can guarantee that Morbius, if you throw Spider-Man in there and another Avenger, it'll probably make 800 million. So give us 25% of that. That's reasonable, right? To me, that seems reasonable because they're sharing their entire universe. The universe that literally came and saved Spider-Man. So again, you can see how 2 minutes ago, I was very against Disney, but now I'm for Disney because of their proposal. But what happened? Neither side wanted to agree. They were both being greedy and they just had a standstill and just butted heads, and that was it. And that's really where we're at, right? It's unfortunate, that's how it goes, but both sides are in the wrong here. You can't tell me that one side is correct. What they should have done is really try to hash out more details and both not have, this inflated ego, and Sony because of Venom's success, and well, Disney because they're Disney, but ultimately, who's losing? Who's suffering the most? Certainly not the franchises are going to be making billions of dollars regardless of where they're included. Us, the fans of MCU Spider-Man. That's who's suffering.